Australia has hosted a conference on immigration policy attended by representatives from the US and UK. Australia is the only country in the world with a mandatory detention policy, according to which asylum seekers and immigrants who arrive without a visa are forcibly detained until the outcome of their application or their decision to be deported back to their country of origin. Australia's immigration policy and conditions in the camps in the South Pacific used by Australia for immigration detention purposes have been widely criticised, including by the United Nations. Despite this, Australia's policy has recently gained support in certain sections of government in the US and UK. With me to discuss the issue are David Coleman, Australian Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs, US President Donald Trump, and Tory leadership hopeful Boris Johnson. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Let's start with you, David. How can you defend an immigration detention policy which includes a ban on the press attending detention centres, dozens of immigrant deaths in custody, including 20 suicides, the last a 25-year-old Iraqi male on the 4th of March of this year, according to your government's own figures, reports of rapes, unlawful use of force, use of intimidation to deter detainees from pursuing complaints about their treatment, and an average detention period in excess of 9 months, with a number of detainees spending years in custody?
Bob, that's a pretty loaded question. Let me explain. We're supportive of immigrants who have value to add to Australia. We're a country composed of many migrant communities. What we cannot condone is allowing would-be asylum seekers in before we've had the chance to vet them. I mean, some of these people could be criminals.
Boris, you and Mr. Trump attended the conference hosted by David. What are your thoughts?
Well, no. My first thought is perhaps David is descended from criminals himself.
Ha! That's a bit of a low blow, Boris.
I'm only joking, of course. I agree entirely with David's defence. If I become Prime Minister, I plan to house asylum seekers on Guernsey and Jersey in labour camps where they'll be forced to support the offshore banking sector with various roles, including accountancy, filing, administrative support, and the like. We'll make it as humane as possible. They'll get cups of tea, maybe even the odd scone.
Boris, you've been reported to have called the French turds. What sort of example does that set to the general public?
I believe I've been misquoted on that. I would never call a French person a turd unless they really were a turd.
President Trump, what did you learn from the conference?
Well, Bob, I learned that putting up posters in source countries with the words "No way" emblazoned in large font with choppy seas in the foreground is a good way to keep them out.
What if the potential immigrants can't read English?
If they can't read English, they should stay where they are. We're considering detaining immigrants at Guantanamo. We got to choose the islands carefully. I'm not going to use Costa Rica. That's a favorite holiday destination of mine.
Brief final thoughts from each of you.
Don't immigrate to Australia unless you've got millions of dollars and are ideally white, but we welcome wealthy Chinese migrants too.
Boris?
Offshore banking is the way forward.
Donald?
I'm trying to get David to build a wall. I've told you, Donnie, we've got a big ocean out there. We can't do it. The cost of subsea foundations is prohibitive, mate.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.